restraint, caught up in the games they play. High-speed chases gone awry, serious turns into pie in the sky. Just out of jurisdiction, laughter and a conviction. Beneath the badge in misguided fiction. Here comes the twist.
Welcome back, guys. Got another episode for you. Got a little less time in between this one and the last one.
It was gotten lazy.
Yeah, we've got lazy and tried to get back on track with everything.
We tried to put one out a week. That we were doing it. We were on, and then he got a new job. I went on vacation. And then we just got out of the hang out of the routine.
Easy to get out of the routine.
It's like anything else. You got to get in the rotation, get in the habit.
That's right. So when you get out, it's hard to get everything going. But I think this is our 17th, if you counted right.
17th or 18th. Yeah, 17th or 18th. I don't know. We're not good at math. That's why we're in the profession we're in.
So today we have a co-worker of mine, and we met this year technically we met back when you was calling some games up here at South Laurel for Whitley County.
Yeah.
But really got to know each other this year. But Dave Lennon's with us today. And we have had, so I've laughed at you already this year, just not even knowing some of the stories, but I just, you've always got something to say. You always got a story that you've done.
But, this is the thing about being in police work. It's a dark business, and you got to have a dark sense of humor.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
To survive. And then just some of the stuff that you see over the course of a career, and then the things we do to each other. That's the interesting thing.
Hey guys, I just want to take a moment and thank our sponsor. We've got Ascend Wellness. It's a family-owned mental health practice in London, Kentucky. They've got over 65 years of combined experience. They specialize in trauma-focused care, offering EMDR therapy for first responders and others impacted by traumatic events. If you're not familiar with that, a lot of our guys have taken the time to do that type of therapy, and it really allows you to kind of get your mind wrapped around the trauma that you may or may not know that you're holding on to. It's helped a lot of the guys that we know. Travis himself has done it and swears by it. Said that he opened up to things he didn't even know that was bothering him. So definitely something you might want to check out. Services include individual, marriage, and family counseling. Let's be honest, as first responders, our marriages, our families sometimes take a second seat or a back seat to the job. So I can't imagine that any of us would ever need marriage counseling or anything to fix the problems at home. Hopefully you don't, but if you do, they're good at what they do, so they can help you out there. Family counseling, MAT, substance abuse counseling, parenting classes, supervised visitation, and medication management, all delivered in a supportive, client-centered environment. They are located at 148 Commercial Drive in London, Kentucky, and Ascend Wellness is here to help you rise. If you are interested in visiting or contacting them, you can find them at ascendwellness.org or call 606-260-8532. Come on.
Oh, yeah. Look at this. We're getting ready to put another mic, because our good friend Dan's
let me tell you why he's coming up. And he's coming up to check on me because I was washing my hands. And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't know why. Is he going to leave? No, he's probably going to spread the word on why I had to wash my hands. And
come back in.
I'm going to leave it. I've got a story that will be germane to this as far as police work.
Our Dan just walked in, who's Dave and R's boss. And he got out of Dan's out of.
He seen the mics out and got out of here quick.
He's scared or something.
But you got to be able to laugh at yourself, because you make mistakes, and when you make a mistake, they're usually pretty public.
Yeah.
Yes.
And your boys that you're working with, I don't care at what level you're working, they're going to throw the saddle on you, ride you like a government mule.
You are absolutely.
So you better be able to handle it, or you better find another profession. Listen, I worried way less about being shot at and whipped out here on the street than I did doing silly stuff and getting rode by my co-workers.
Oh, yeah.
So
It's part of it.
Then that's exactly why he was here. He was here to throw the saddle on.
What happened there?
We're not going to go into it. I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story that's kind of like it, though.
Okay.
When I was at Whitley County, I worked for the Whitley County Sheriff's Department for a number of years. And I was an SRO, but during the summer, I would work the road. I wasn't retired yet, so I needed those months towards my retirement. And I would work the road, and I enjoyed working the road. It was kind of a nice balance. You work with kids for 9 months of the year, and by the time you're sick of the kids, you go to the road. And
it takes much less time to get sick of the road.
About 3 months, you're sick of the road and ready to go back to school. Yeah. So it was a really good balance that I had. And, I knew, having worked in the schools, I knew so many of the kids and even the adults that had gone through. I was a SRO at Whitley County for 22 years. So I knew a lot of people in the county. And I was down in one community, and I saw a kid that I absolutely knew was suspended. He was 19. He was an idiot. He was an idiot when he was in school. And one time he was in the alternative school and he wouldn't go to class, and he was sitting out in the gym. And they called me, and there was one. This is how times have changed. There was one SRO to cover all the schools in Whitley County.
Oh, gosh.
So they called me and said, "Hey, this kid won't go to class." And I said, "I'll be right there." So I walk in the gym, and I said, "Come on, let's go to class." He said, "I'm not going. You can't make me." And I laughed. And I said, "If you think I can't make you," I said, you're severely wrong. I said, "If you don't think that I won't drag you into class and staple you with a staple gun to the seat, you're wrong again." So we had some back and forth, and it was kind of like the Wild West at that particular alternative school. So he said, "I'm not going." And I said, "Yeah, you are." So I went over there and grabbed him. He had cowboy boots on. I grabbed his cowboy boot. It came off, so I flung it away, grabbed him by his ankle. He had nasty, talking about washing your hands. He had some nasty socks on. I dragged him across the gym floor. Of course, it was a nice, smooth gym floor, well waxed. So he slid pretty good. It was no problem. And his classroom was actually in the gym. It was an old school, and you had like 3 classrooms off the gym. So I dragged him in the classroom, and you should have seen the kids in the classroom when I dragged him in, because they were like kind of his little entourage that didn't think that this would happen. And I dragged him in. He's kicking and screaming and going on. And I pick him up and throw him in a seat. And I said, "I need the staple gun." And everybody kind of looked, and he said, "Please, Mr. Lennon, I'll stay in class." I said, "I knew you would." I told the teacher, I said, if he gives you any problem, call me. I'll come on back.
Oh, my
now,
gosh.
in today's times,
I would be. Yeah, you can't do it no more.
And I knew his dad well, and I called and told his dad what I did, and he said, "You should have put a knot on his head or two just for good measure." I said, "No, I don't want to do that. I just wanted to get in class." From that moment on, I had zero problems out of him or his entourage.
Yeah. Sometimes
word gets
sometimes
around.
I need to see like, oh, that guy, he's legit.
Yeah,
He can do it. He can handle it.
Now, I'm older and wiser, and of course, I wouldn't do that now. Everything's, the big eye in the sky never lies, and it's always watching.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's. But this kid, going back to my original story on this particular young man, I knew he was suspended, and I saw him in this community, so I flip flop on him. I turn around, and get behind the car, and I call it in. I said, "Dispatch, I'll be stopping ABC 123 on this particular road." They said 10-4, gave me time. So I hit my lights, and he looks up and sees me, and he pulls over. I thought he might run, but I guess he remembered me dragging him across the gym. I knew I wasn't. Out on a gravel road, dragging wouldn't go nearly as well. So I had eaten at Krystal earlier in the evening. That's when there was still a Krystal in Williamsburg. And let's just say that I couldn't complete the traffic stop. I got out of the car and was like, whoop. Dispatch, signal that traffic stop. I can get him later. I said, I'll be 10-6. I'm being around to my signal 1 for just a few.
They all do.
Yeah.
It's easy. They're like, oh,
I'm going to be 10 to 100.
yeah, be 10 to 100.
Yeah. But the problem was, we'll just leave it right there.
Yeah. You didn't make it.
Let's just say I had to wash my hands that day too.
Yeah, well, I don't know how many pissing stories I've told on myself on this podcast, but I don't know. What is it? We're up to, if we've done 17, I'd say 10.
At least 10 or 14.
But the funniest one I ever had, and I'm going to, did I tell one of them wedding night or when we got married?
About you peeing on?
Yeah.
No, you've not
All right,
told that
listen,
yet.
Is this something that we really want to hear?
I had a dream about testing out my grandma's new toilet, and I peed all over my brand new wife in the bed. She made me sleep with a.
And she's still married to me.
At least that's the story that they're telling.
Yeah.
I mean,
We'll
just leave it right there.
I slept with a trash bag under my. Every time I get up,
She's a saint. She's a saint, is all I've got to say.
So that's my last piece story I ever want to tell. But I confessed it to you, just you.
Oh yeah.
And nobody listens.
No, nobody. Yeah, nobody. We'll keep that a secret just between us.
So, how long have you policed?
I started August 8th of 1990. I started Corbin PD, and I worked there till December 1st of 2001. And I thought I was burnt out on police work, and I took a really, really good job in a factory as safety and health coordinator. Sitting behind the desk, I would go out and walk the floor, make sure that, people were wearing their safety goggles, and I was writing all the accident reports and safety things, and I was doing the OSHA stuff, making really, really good money. And I knew 45 minutes into the job that I had made a horrendous tactical error. So I called around and I talked to several agencies, and everybody knew I was miserable. Down there, it just wasn't for me. It'd be a great job.
Yeah.
Great people were at the particular factory I was working at. And about the second week of April, the sheriff in Whitley County called me. He said, our SRO just quit. He said, I know you're looking for a job, and would you want to come finish out the year as an SRO? And he said, then we'll go from there. And I said, that'd be great. I said, but I'm going to be honest with you up front. I said, I got a job as a city police officer in another city. And I said, I can't start there because the guy's retiring. I'm not starting there till June 1st. So I'll work for you, or July 1st. I'll work for you till through June. He said, that's great. I can always use manpower. So I started at the Whitley County Sheriff's Department on March 1st of 2002, and absolutely fell in love with being an SRO. And at the time, my kids were going to Corbin, and I was working at Whitley, and they were really young, and everything's fine. And as it turned out, both kids ended up transferring down to Whitley County in the middle school, and so I had it was nice, it cut down on the logistics to have both my kids in the same school system at the same time. And it afforded me a lot of opportunities. And at Whitley County, for a while, I was the coach to be named later. If they needed somebody to coach something, they'd say, well, Dave can't coach that. Call Dave. And so while I was there, I coached middle school baseball, middle school softball, freshman football. I was assistant JV coach for a little while. But the big thing, and I was SID. They knew that I took a big cut in pay leaving the Sheriff's Department, and they made me sports information director for like 3 or 4 years.
Really?
Yeah, well, longer than that, about 6 years. And it worked out really good. They were paying me, and I was going to games anyway because I was doing them on the radio.
Yeah.
And I would just take my stats, write a story from it, put it out in the paper, send it to the Lexington Herald, whatever.
Yeah.
Send it out, and they were paying me to do that. So then I got into the coaching thing, and that was a lot of fun. And I got to coach both my kids at the middle school level, but my big break came, as far as coaching goes, came in 2010. They decided they wanted to restart the cross country program at Whitley County. It had been dormant for a while, and I had gone to school with the athletic director since first grade all the way through, and I was standing out there with the principal, the superintendent, and the athletic director, and I said they were not happy about having to restart the cross country program. The reason they had to restart it was Title IX.
Yep.
And they said, now we're gonna have to waste a teaching position on a cross country coach, and that's just they just weren't happy about it.
Right.
And the athletic director says, no, said we don't have to waste a teaching position. They can handle it. I'm like, what?
You got voluntold?
And I got voluntold I was going to do it. And Benji said, yeah, Dave, you ran in high school, you ran in college, you know the sport better than anything else you coached.
Yeah.
So,
Be easy for you.
Yeah, this should be easy for you. And I was like, well, okay, what's it pay? And it paid a pretty nice amount. And so I took over the cross country program. And then 2 years later, the track coach quit on February 15th, which was the day that track started.
Ooh.
They called me. I was at the 18-mile marker northbound, and they said, hey, the track coach just resigned. I said, I'll take it. They said, well, we hadn't offered it. I said, I don't care. I'll take it anyway. They said, well, we were calling to tell you that, you were getting it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. So
That works out.
It all worked out. But the funny thing was I had just turned down a softball job that morning, and I'd used every excuse in the world that they might have believed, maybe, to avoid coaching softball because I didn't want to coach softball at this point. And
it's a different game.
oh yeah. And so I took over the track job. So I was track and cross country coach at Whitley County for about 10 years till 2019, and I got out of it and I kept doing radio. I did radio till 21, and I got out of it. And it's amazing how much time that you have when you're not doing radio, coaching two sports.
Yeah, you feel,
When you don't have
like,
15 jobs.
Yeah, but yeah, I enjoyed my time there at the sheriff's department. And then in 22, I had retired in 21 and went back to work. Retirement didn't stick. It wasn't my gig for me. And I was like, I got to do something. So I went back to work as an SRO. Well, most of my buddies had retired or moved on or this, that, and the other. And I'm like, egad, I got to find something else here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd heard through the Jungle Telegraph that Laurel County was starting their own police department. I thought, Now, I know Doug Bennett. He was the superintendent here at the time.
Yeah, he's from, he taught down in Whitley,
I knew him all the way back to when he was a classroom teacher and a wrestling coach. And guess what? I was SID, so I had a pretty good working relationship with him. So I call up Dr. Bennett and I say, hey, I hear y'all are, we're looking into it. And I gave him my resume, kind of a verbal thing over the phone. And I was in the first class to have all three SRO. And he said, come up, put an application in tomorrow. Yeah. He said, it's not even official. You should get your application in. So I was day one hire with our Laurel County School Police Department. Love it. You couldn't run me off of the mop and the bucket.
I started real quickly before Laurel County had their own police department. I started SRO. I guess I'm gonna say the 2012-13 school year was my first year, and I filled in for a quick hot minute for an officer. It was had surgery over here at South Laurel, and at the time it was just two of us running all 17, 18 schools, whatever it is, and you didn't get bored. And they couldn't trap you. Be like, well, hey, I gotta go. You wasn't just stuck at one school. Be like, hey, I need to head down to this elementary school, and had a ball. But they did. They would, hey, we need a we need an archery coach. Archery. I was like, I shot a lot of pistol and I've shot a lot of rifle. I can teach them natural point of aim and how. I'm not a bow shooter, and going to Louisville with some state tournament stuff and national stuff. You're like, oh, this is cool. And then I was like, I wish I could teach them how to do this. I'm the worst coach ever for that. And then coached 6th grade football and got to coach my son. And there's a fine line between being a coach and being a dad, and you got to be that coach out there instead of almost getting fist fights with your son, beating him over your knee out there. But it was a lot of fun. We had a good time.
I was very blessed, particularly when I was coaching my son and daughter both, in that Whitley County had baseball bingo. So we didn't have to fundraise. We still did because we wanted the kids to take some responsibility in it. But I kind of had a rule with both of my kids. I was the coach till we pulled in the driveway. Because, we're riding home together after games and after practice. And I was the coach till we pulled in the driveway. Then I had to be dad. And we kind of had a rule. We didn't talk about sports at home, particularly not at the dinner table, because my wife would have knocked my teeth out some of the things that I said to both my kids out on the diamond.
Separation in church and state over there.
I got to have that separation. But being an SRO, it's a lot of fun, and it gives you an opportunity. So many times these kids only see police in an adversarial light. You're coming to their house and probably the worst time that they can have.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes in maybe a domestic situation, you're taking mom or dad or both to jail, depending. And so you're the bad guy. And when you're an SRO, they see you in a completely different light. And guys at the elementary schools, and I'll be honest with you, I was not wired for an elementary school. At any point in my entire career, I could not have been successful. And I started out at Campground Elementary, and I loved it. And I averaged about 12 hugs a day.
Oh, yeah.
And
50 cartons of milk opened.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you do at lunch.
Yeah. And it was good, but at some point they said, they came to him and said, Dave, you're a hard charger. You are not cut out for this. Because I was doing campground and day treatment at the same time. I was spending half day at one, half day at the other. So they saw I wasn't an elementary guy. And so they moved me up here to the middle school, and it's been a great fit for me. And and to be honest with you, I didn't think I thought I was a high school guy, and I really like the middle school. I think it's a really good fit for me.
It's a tough age group, but
especially 6th grade, 8th grade, especially when you have some holdback kids or whatever. There's a huge age difference when these 11-year-olds coming in here, and then some. I mean, there's kids that probably once they change the driver's license stuff that could have probably got their driver's license, maybe or did this school year.
Yeah, there were kids driving, they were doing the permit thing, driving to school, and their parents would get out, and you'd see them switching their parking lot.
Right here at the middle school.
That's crazy.
And that's different.
That's wild.
When you have a 6th grade come in, babies really, and then, it's different. It is a different calling, the middle school. And teachers, Lord, I don't know. I asked my wife, she's a teacher. She's like, in high school, I was like, would you do middle school? And I'm, it's a special calling.
Well, you've got, you got puberty and all that coming in at that,
Well, you got babies up here still.
Here's the thing, and this is not on Laurel County because everybody does it now. When I went to school, and that was back when we rode dinosaurs to school, it was junior high, 7th and 8th grade together. There's such a maturity gap between 6th graders and 8th graders.
Yeah.
And not only mentally, but physically. And fortunately, we've not had a huge problem with that. But the 6th graders I see coming in, and not coming into my school, but I see 6th graders out in the real world, and I go to other schools to game. 6th graders are just not ready for the responsibility and the freedom that they get at middle school. No. But by the end of the year, they've learned and they're better. And when they come back, they're a totally different animal when they come back as 7th graders.
Yeah, it's different. I think I enjoy. Seems like though the innocence is lost, and you're like, holy cow! It takes about half a year for them to really kind of. You're like, oh, this kid's different, but it's a middle school. I mean, you got them coming all from they're used to their little tiny elementary school for the most part. We got some big elementary schools, but then all of a sudden they're entering in from all over the county or different parts of the county, and it's a different world.
They're pied for the first 6 weeks.
Yeah, they are.
They don't know what to think, but it's all good. And even then, there's some cool things this year. We had the big audit came in from Kentucky Center for School Safety, and they were interviewing kids. And I think I got the best compliment. I mean, there were a lot of kids that said, "Oh, he's chill, he's this, he's that." Nobody said anything really negative, and which pleased me greatly.
Right.
Yeah.
But one kid, and I don't know who it was, said he's really nice, but you can tell if you look at him when nobody's watching, you can tell he'd be mean if he had to.
Yeah, which is
Well,
good.
thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good compliment.
Yeah, because an SRO, it's a special. I mean, it's kind of a special position in the fact that your primary objective here is to put it crudely, is to seek and destroy a threat if something happens. But then you've also got to be able to flip that switch and be, kind of a light and path to these kids too. So
it's a whole.
You got to have both of those animals, Jekyll and Hyde, kind of in you.
The day one meeting we had, Dr. Bennett was still superintendent, and they came in and they were talking to us, and Dr. Bennett said, "Listen," and there were 8 of us that first day, only 8 day one hires, and we were talking, and Dr. Bennett said, "You're here for one reason. So we don't care what you do other than this." Said, you're here to kill the bad guy or die trying.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not ready to do that, you need to find another job.
Oh,
Get the door right now. And everybody, you could see everybody in the room say, "Yeah, this is it. This is what we want to do." And as you become more invested in a school, you end up doing more, and you do things that are way, way outside
the scope of police.
But that's the way that you build those relationships with those kids.
I mean, how much basketball did you shoot? How many going into class and learning, sitting down? I mean, but those kids will remember those times more than we'll ever know. We'll forget the names of these kids a lot of times, and we'll see them later, and they're like, "You remember me? I was like, yeah, how you doing?" I can't remember their names, but man, the impact that we have is greater than we ever did working the streets as a road unit. And it's so important, I think, that we put our best in there. I think it used to be, well, this guy's, let's hide him in the schools or whatever. And luckily, that never happened around here, because you need to have your best officer. That's what when Stuart Walker put me in there a long time ago, is that we need somebody that we can trust, that we know can do the job.
When I took SRO 1, I was in the very first SRO 1 class, and Alex Payne was the commissioner at DOCJT at that point. And they removed him for whatever reason. I won't mention politics, but they removed him, and a huge mistake. But I have a ton of respect for Alex Payne. Of course, he knocked me out once. I took a ASP training. I trained the trainer. Mm-hmm. I was going to be an ASP instructor.
Yeah. Golly.
And we were doing the red man, and I kept dropping my left hand. He said, "Time out." He was in the red man suit. I wasn't. He time out. We had to stand there for like a minute. It seemed like an hour. And he said, "Lennon," he said, "if you drop your left hand one more time, I'm going to knock you out." And I'm like, "Yeah, you are." And we go on, and wasn't 15 seconds, 20 seconds on. Once we started again, he knocked me out. I saw the sun and the moon and the whole constellation. And he stood over and told me, I told you I was going to knock you out, But the thing that he said when we were in the first orientation hour of that first SRO class, he said, guys, he said, so many people don't understand the job of an SRO. He said, to me, this is more important than a good SRT unit. Mm-hmm. He said, you should get the best, you should have the best officers with the best equipment, best training, because they're protecting our most precious resource, and that's the kids. Yeah. And for so many years, I took a lot of guff from a lot of officers, particularly when I was just solely an SRO at Whitley County, and they would say, "Oh, you're just an SRO."
Yeah.
And the thing about being an SRO, when you're in the school, and you've got your school, I've got my school, the other 16 guys have their schools. When the call comes, whether it's from the principal or whoever, we don't get a call from dispatch very often. Occasionally, but not very often. But when that call comes, it's not like if you're working the road and you're sitting there taking 5, and you're eating, and call comes out and somebody says, well, I'm already finished, I'll go catch that call. Mm-hmm. There's nobody catch that call.
No, you're it.
No,
you're it. You got to go do it. So I thought Alex Payne understands this job.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. And so it's an important job.
It is.
A little background for the folks that aren't familiar. The Kentucky may be the only one, or we're the first ones to require a certified police officer, an SRO, on every campus. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, this school has 2 or 3 schools on it, but they provided, we got 2 officers in this, but technically they could got away with 1, but you couldn't have done it.
No, one person could not have.
There's 4,000 people on this campus, I'd say, at any time. And, this is like a giant, and what I used to think about when I was here is like, we've got everything that's out there in the city is right here, from restaurants to traffic control to anything. It's a micro.
It's a microcosm of the real world.
Yes, mm-hmm. And it happens, and everything these kids bring from their home, it's reflected right here. And a lot of kids, what happens here is the biggest thing that ever happens to them. So the bullying and the whatever's going on here is huge in their lives, and it carries back to their home sometimes. And you have to just really muck through all that stuff to kind of figure out, like, what is this really important? But to those kids, it's extremely important.
Well, and it's funny that I ended up in school. One of the guys that, before I was ever an officer, and I was contemplating becoming an officer, I was working for the Revenue Cabinet for the state of Kentucky, if you can believe that. And I decided I wanted
some respect.
Well, I get it, believe me. And I decided I wanted to get into something less dangerous than being a revenuer. And so I decided on police officer.
Yeah.
And I was riding with the trooper, and I'm like Dragnet. The name's going to be changed to protect the innocent, or the guilty in this particular.
Yeah.
And I was riding with this trooper, and we were working down in South Whitley, and there's, just like here in Laurel County, there's a place where I-75 runs really, really, really close to 25, and we made a stop for DUI, and there were like 4 juveniles in the car. And he has the driver out, and he's doing field sobriety. I'm standing at the back of the car, kind of watching, going with the goings on, trying to figure it out. Those 4 kids jump out of the car and hop the guardrail and run down. They're going to hit 25. And I said, hey, they're running. He said, they're juveniles. He said, that's like catching an 11-inch bass. You throw it back and you catch it next year. And then I didn't really get it. I mean, I get it, but
yeah.
I thought, but no, we're not, you're the police. We don't let that stuff go on. And, but as I got older and when I became a police officer, I figured it out. But then where did I end up?
At school.
After 11 years, I end up in school dealing with juveniles for the better part of my career.
You know how many calls on a weekend night? We've got this is a South Laurel kid called T-Dot, and next thing you know, I'm up there at 3 o'clock in the morning talking to juveniles because road units hated dealing with juveniles. They didn't understand. It's no different. It's just.
Well, I would say this. I would say that your training as a road unit is not as good as it should be dealing with juveniles.
Oh, not even close.
I mean, you just know the bare minimums. You know, you got to call CDW. You know,
Yeah.
You can't handcuff them to a bench. You can't. Not saying that would ever happen.
Since when? That's just joking. Just joking.
It is a different thing. And one time, it was early in the morning, and I just came out. We had a case, a sexual assault case, and I go out. They called me in. I'm like, oh, okay. And I just came out of a sexual assault school, in service class, and it's talking about you never Mirandize the victim. You never do. They're a victim. So first thing, but juveniles, you always Mirandize a juvenile. So I was like, I Mirandized the victim, and boy, did our detective, she came upside my head. I was like, yes, ma'am, I'm so sorry. I was like, oh, it was just, but you just kind of, it's different. It's confusing sometimes. And when you're dealing with juveniles a lot, you just kind of get into, this is what I do first, this is what I do. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I did. I'm so sorry.
But there are aspects that definitely, carry over. But it's you definitely have to change gears. When I would go from the school that first day, I don't wear a vest in the school. There's my one vest laying up there. I got two.
I got two. I got one in my car, one in my.
I got two laying in my bedroom at home, and I'm glad we don't have to go the road anymore. But you'd have to change gears because when I go the road, you put the vest back on. You're wearing things that you don't. I'd put my ass back on my belt. And
it's different.
You change your mentality of how you even approach people and talk to people. So it was good. And then I'll never forget this. And I had a big burglary that I'd worked, and I went old school. I'd worked the burglary, and I knew generally where the bad guy. Didn't know exactly who it was. Knew generally where he was from and what he was doing, and. So I just set up, I'd come 10-8 every day, and I'd set up and I'd write tickets. I'd road check all by myself. And I was writing tickets like just, it wasn't unusual for me to write 15, 20 tickets a day in this little community. And somebody finally asked me, I wasn't going to tell him till because we're not, working for a sheriff's department, we're not paperwork driven. Working for the city, you're not paperwork driven. Now, there are agencies that are, but certainly not the county. And they asked me, they said, why are you picking on us so bad? I said, well, there was burglary over here at this place, and they stole $35,000. And I said, I intend to find the bad guy who did it, and I'm going to put his ass in jail, and I want to get back as much as I can. And they said, well, it was old Roy Joe down there, and he lives up on the hills, and he's probably got that stuff in his back shed. And I'm like, okay. So
aggravated enough to
and I learned that from that same guy who let the juveniles go. And so long story short, I did a little more investigating, ended up getting a search warrant, served it. We recovered about $25,000 of stolen stuff, and I had a case going. So it was like August 1st when I served the search warrant. Well, guess what? Old Dad goes back to school like August 10th. Guess what I forgot? I forgot to take the case to the grand jury. Just forgot.
Yeah.
Because I was tired of the road.
Yeah.
Time to go back. And Oh, it was maybe the middle of October. And the sheriff calls me in down there, and him and the chief deputy are ready to just chew me up one side and down the other. They called me and said, Dave, you did this and that. They're chewing on me. I said, you know what? You're right. I didn't take it. I forgot all about it. It was right at the end. School started. I forgot about it. I got going with cross country and football on the radio at school. And I said, I just forgot about it. I said, y'all are right. I said, if you want to give me time off or whatever, I said, I've earned it. And you could visibly see their shoulders drop because they were so excited because they were going to chew on my tail end because they just knew I was going to come in with 40-11 excuses.
Yeah.
They weren't used to somebody saying, yeah, I did it.
Owning it.
Yeah. And I took it to the grand jury, got an indictment, sent the guy away for, I think, 11, 12 years. And it all's well that ends well, but, that's one of those things when you're an SRO, you got to, keep up with all that stuff.
Yeah, flipping back and forth, that would be, yeah.
I did it too, and it was a nice break. You think, oh, man, I'm keep sharp here on the road. They told me when I first, they told me at first, they were like, you're going to be in the schools for 3 years. Okay. Then next thing you know, can you do 2 more years? Yeah. Can you do 3 more years? I was like, yeah, I can. Yeah.
Just keep extending that rotation.
But, you got that. You thought, well, I'm going to get this break, and I'm going to, summer's coming. I'm going to take some vacation, and I'm going to, work here and do this. And then you're like, man, when does school start back? I mean, I remember thinking that. I'm like, oh, my gosh, I forgot about this. Why am I working night shift? Because this guy's off. Mm-hmm. I was a sergeant. So I was having to fill, whoever was on vacation. I was like, I didn't sign up to work third shift on the summers, but that just, it just happened. But it was, I learned a lot.
I can honestly say, when I was at the Sheriff's Department, I either worked first or second shift with the exception of one night. I worked one third shift in 15 years with the Sheriff's Department or whatever it was. For 20 years with the Sheriff's Department. I worked one third shift, and in that one night, I had 2 DUIs and a murder.
Oh, no. Wow. I'm in a murder.
Yeah. Oh, that in and of itself is funny. I mean, the murder's not funny. But
no. But you're laughing about it. So
the whole situation was hilarious. And gosh almighty, I'd gotten a DUI. I come out at 23 and got a DUI at 23:15.
Oh, yeah.
I come out of the jail, and they give me a reckless driving complaint. DUI. Take him to jail. So it's about 1:30-ish, 1:15, and they holler at me on the radio. I'm the only unit, 10-8, covering Whitley County. I'm the only unit.
It's a big county.
Yeah, it's a big county. And so they said, possible shooting down in this little community. I said, okay, I'll be en route. I was probably 20 minutes away, as hard as I could pedal.
Big county. It really is.
Yeah.
It's probably as big as Laurel.
And so I'm flying down 25 towards the south end. It was down on the south end. I get off on the secondary road, and I get up there, and the trailer I was going to sat out on a little hill. I could see it from a long way away, and there wasn't no lights on. I thought, oh, that's odd. So I come sliding in the driveway, and on the back side of the hill was a bunch of trailers. And I'm not throwing shade on trailers. That's just what it was. And there's probably 15 people up there, and there's a dead body in the driveway. So it's definitely been a shooting. And they're running around saying they're going to do this and they're going to do that and they're going to kill people and I'm like, calm down. I said, we'll work the problem here.
Yeah.
Well, the boy's mother's laying on the body, and I'm thinking, gosh, she's killing all my evidence. I'm really in the police mode at this point. Not detect, but I'm thinking about evidence, securing the crime scene, getting these people out of my crime scene. I'm by myself. So I hollered at dispatch and said, get me some backup, which Williamsburg City was already coming to me. So they weren't that far behind. And, I go over and I get Mom off the body, give her some water, which was a water bottle I had just bought for her. I hadn't even took a drink yet. I'm parched. It's like in the middle of July. It's humid and hot. I'm sweating like terrible. And I'm dying of thirst, but I give her my water, put her in the back of my cruiser, leave the door open. And this guy comes up to me, and I'm talking to him, and he's actually a witness to what went on. So I'm trying to get this information from him about what went on. And this guy comes out of nowhere from my right-hand side and knocks this guy out. Just bam, one punch. I told you. He thought he was the bad guy. He thought he was the shooter. And I'm going to kill him. I said, no, you're not. I throw him in cuffs after a short scuffle and stitches. And he's cuffed.
Brief struggle.
In the brief struggle. So I put him in the back of my cruiser on the other side. So I got Mom here drinking my water, and him on the other side of the cruiser bleeding. You know, so I'm thinking, gosh, this is out of control. So the guy, I said, you're going to have to send me, in addition to the coroner, send me an ambulance. I just had one knocked out. And they're like, okay. They have no clue what a zoo I'm in. All right. And I've still got all these people running around in addition to all this nonsense going on. Well, this one guy comes up and he has like one soup tooth. And he says, hey, buddy. What? What? And he said, you know that he told me the guy's name. He said, he's still in the trailer with a shotgun. Well, if you've ever had your life pass before your eyes, this was it. You know, and I'm thinking,
maybe I should ask that first.
That probably would have been a good question to ask. But I had all this other stuff going on.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Well, okay. Hey, babe, hide it. Shooter's still in there. I knew that would get everybody away because he's done killed one. So, you know, what's two? Cheaper by the dozen. And so they scattered, which was kind of a good thing. It took us a minute to track them all down when my backup got there. So I go knock on the door of a trailer, and I holler his name. I said, hey, I said, it's the police. Come on out. Throw that shotgun out here and come on out. He said, you'll kill me. I said, no, I won't. I said, they make me pay for my bullets, so I ain't going to use one unless you make it. And we have some back and forth. Well, he ends up coming out. I cuff him. Well, I got no place to put him. I got Mom in the back seat of my cruiser drinking my water. The other guy sitting in the cuffed, bleeding all over my cruiser. So I think, well, where am I going to put him? About that time, some backup from Williamsburg rolls in. And I said, here, put him in the cruiser. This is the bad guy. This is the shooter. And so at that point, KSP rolls in, Williamsburg City. The sheriff rolls in. They had told him I had a shooting and all this stuff. Everybody said, well, what'd you need us for? You got everything took care of. I said, you just don't know.
Organized chaos.
It looks like I did. But
you know, the end looked good, and of course the body's still laying there.
Yeah.
You know, and so the machinery takes over, and we start doing our thing, crime scene. And I get home like at 11 o'clock that next morning, stayed out, but you think, well, it can't be any funnier than this, right?
it should, yeah.
You know, so I end up taking the guy down to the county jail. And this was before it was up on the hill where it's at in Whitley County now. It's downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And they had sent me 2 Knox County troopers. So and I knew them both, knew them well, still good friends with them to this day. And this guy knew this other guy, another guy comes down there that has to do with more stitches. And he comes up and he says, I want to go to jail. And this trooper says, I ain't taking you to jail. He said, what do I got to do to go to jail? And he said, there's nothing you can do that's going to make me take you to jail at this point, time in the morning. It was like 5 in the morning at this point. Well, 4:30, 5. And he acts like he's going to hit that trooper.
Go ahead.
And the trooper drills this guy. Whack. And I mean, that's the sound it made. And I thought, well, now that's something completely different. And at this point, there's no stitches involved. But the guy took about 3 steps back and fell off the curb of the sidewalk and fell backwards and landed on his head. Well, there's where the stitches come in.
Idiot.
You know. And guess what? He went to jail. You know.
He had to go.
He had to go at that point. But,
Man.
you know.
You good?
Yep.
And I knew that was funny, but I didn't know it make you cry and choke you up.
Allergies.
So, you know, and once again, that goes back to policemen having this dark sense of humor. Only policemen would laugh at everything that I just told everybody else.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody I've ever told that story that wasn't the police, they look at me like, you need help.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
We've talked about we've had to cut some of our silly, some stories we've told. Be like, our wives or our parents were like, you got to take that out. What's wrong with y'all? And we were like, nothing to it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we better save that for the Patreon page if we ever do one. But you can't help. We just develop a coping mechanism, and there's we see stuff and we just say it sometimes, because humor and dark humor is sometimes the only way we can get through it.
Yeah.
Because we've seen some major crazy stuff.
Well, it's talking about crazy stuff. And I mean, things that we think are totally normal, other people just don't get it. They just don't see the world like police officers do. And even police officers sometimes don't see it for what it really is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When I first started, this is my 3rd or 4th day on the job. We got a domestic in a trailer park up right off 25E there in Corbin. And once again, I'm 3 days working.
Yeah.
And I'm riding with this officer. Guy runs out the back, and it's dusky dark. It's about 8:30. I started, August 8th. So it's probably August 11th, August 12th. It's dusky dark, still pretty light out. We're running. He ran out the back of the trailer, and he's running down through some trees. Now, the grass was cut because it was nice down in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it went down towards Heberlin Supply in Corbin, and I'm chasing him through the woods. Well, this guy had 2 things going against him. Number one, I was 26 years old, in really good shape, about 185 pounds, benching about 230, in good shape, running. So and I'd run in college. I still had that residual good. I was in good shape. That was the first thing against him. Second thing that went against him, he was night blind.
Oh gosh.
And he turned around to look at me, see where I was behind him, and he turns around and runs slap dab into a tree.
Ooh.
I mean, kapow. Well,
Sonny Bono'd it.
yeah. Oh, that's cold, man. I like it. Well, and at this point, I really didn't know how to cuff anybody. I hadn't learned diddly do. So I get the cuffs on him. I'm dragging him back up the hill. He's bleeding like a stuck pig. He's got a big cut right down the straight of his forehead, ends at the top of the bridge of his nose, top of his nose, where he ran into the tree. Well, the guy I was riding with was a little older, a little fatter, and a little lazier.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, dude, you can't be whipping them like that. You're not you got to go to court and defend. I said, I didn't do it. I said he ran into a tree. He said, oh, that'll never stand up. Nobody will believe that he ran into a tree. And the guy said, no, I ran into a tree. He said, he's bullied you into saying that. No, I didn't. He ran into a tree, And he said, no, really, I ran into a tree. He said, he didn't. He said, he's been nothing. He said, he was completely professional, And
Convinced that you did it. Yeah.
yeah, but he was just convinced that I had whipped that guy. Now, on down the line, him and another officer, this is probably, I hadn't gone to the academy yet, but I was out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
They holler at me, and they said, come on, we're going to go serve this warrant. And it was on this old cat who just fought the police. Every It didn't matter what.
Yeah.
He just fought the police. That was just part of him going to jail. He was fighting the police. And I really didn't know that going in. You know, I had, like I said, I'd probably been out 2 months at this point. Been out on my own 2 weeks because we only rode 6 weeks. Then we were out on our own.
Yeah.
This is old days, you know. And so 3 cars roll in there and they said, "Here's a warrant, go serve it." I said, "Aren't y'all going to go serve it?" "No." I said, "This is on you. You're going to go serve it." I said, "Okay." Not a big deal. So it was a 2-story apartment building. And I go upstairs, knock on the door, and he answers the door. I said, "All right, T-Dot." I said, "I got this warrant for you. You're going to have to go to jail with us." And he said, "I'm not going." I said, "Oh, yeah, you are." And he said, "No, I'm not." I said, "No, you're going. One way or the other. You're going." And the fight was on. And we fought, made about 2 laps around the apartment, once up and down the hall, and then we both went down the stairs, not on our feet. And we roll out, and the fight's on still. And they stood there and watched. And I finally get the cuffs on him. And, you know, got a brand new uniform on.
Yeah.
2 weeks old. You know, I've been out 2 weeks. Yeah, destroyed. Pockets torn, the badge hanging. It was terrible. I was madder than fire. But I didn't get it then. I was mad at them for not helping me, number one. And then I get it because they wanted to know I wasn't a coward.
Yeah.
That I wouldn't run from a fight. They wouldn't let me get my ass whipped. They just wanted to make sure that I was going to
that you had.
Yeah, they would jumped in if it looked like you started losing.
Yeah, if I'd started losing,
They want to see. They want to see that you do it.
Yeah,
And win or lose, they were going to.
Right. They didn't care whether they wanted. If as a police officer, you say you've never lost a fight, you just started yesterday or a liar.
Yeah.
I had a guy.
I never won my first fight till I became a police officer. I've lost many dang fights in my life. That's awful. I was like, man, I got to learn how to do this better.
Yeah, you know, and I think the best police officers kind of walked on the dark side just a little bit before they became police officers, and they had been in some fights because they know how to take a punch.
Right.
Now, I fought a guy. He was an MMA fighter. He was manic depressive, off his medication, and he had another diagnosis. And we ended up, 4 of us fought him. It took 4 of us to get him in cuffs, and he hit me with the backhand. I had him in chokehold prior to this, and nobody had ever escaped one of my chokeholds in all my years as a police officer. And he escaped the chokehold, reversed on me, had me in a chokehold before I was like, "Dang gum, what happened here?" Jeez. And I get out of it, you know. Yeah. But I might not have if those other officers hadn't been there. But I'm beside him, and he hits me with a left-hand backhand right in the face. And I'm laying back we were fighting in a ditch, and I'm laying back in those wet leaves, looking up at the pretty clouds, saying, "Oh, the clouds are so pretty."
Birds twerping.
Wait, I'm in a fight.
Wait, what am I supposed to? Oh, yeah, I'm in the fight. So we jumped out. Yeah, you know, we jump back in the fight, and we get the cuffs on him, and they're in the front. Well, you know what that means. You can't fight, you know. So we had to take them off. Fight's back on. We roll them over and get the cuffs on. Well, we holler for backup. Trooper, who y'all probably know, shows up. He's sitting there holding him. He's got a knee in his back. He's holding him. See, he's sitting up on the roadway because it was on the main road. And that guy says, he's laughing. This guy has just whipped 4 police officers. All 4 of us went to the hospital. I spent 3 weeks off work. He kicked me in the knee, and it was terrible. But he was laughing. And listen, he took we hit him with everything we had. And he was laughing. He said, he told her, he said, "You need to teach these guys how to fight."
That's
I just whipped their ass. And we're like, yeah, you did. But you're going to jail.
Yeah. We won.
We won.
You won the fight. We won the battle.
You won the battle. We won the war.
Yeah.
I've fought some people, especially when they got wild on meth or something. Man, they take every one of us, and then I'm like, I don't just let him go.
Well,
we can't win this.
it got to the point when we would respond to Roger
Yeah.
that I remember the last time that we didn't even have to fight him that time. But nobody had talked about this, but I roll up first. 2 cars come in behind me. I come out, I pop taser already. I look behind me. Everybody else that got out of the car already got their taser out. I said, everybody's got the same idea. We ain't fighting this guy.
There's people just like to fight.
Yeah.
And
So,
or they're just high. They just don't know a little better. And every time you deal with them, they're high.
We Corbin there for a while was kind of like a revolving door on people's way on to KSP.
mm-hmm.
There was a trooper I was training. He wasn't a trooper then. He was a Corbin police officer. And I tell you his name. I won't say it here. Once again, to protect the innocent and the guilty. And I was training him, and he had 2 or 3 cases going on, and we had and they gave us out a call. We were coming off a call, and there were two units there. So I said, "You go on back to the PD, and I'll catch that call because it's nothing." And I said, "It's BS call. I'll take it." And he said, "Okay, I got to catch up on my cases." He had an accident or 2. You know how you do trainees.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Powerful.
This cat's name, I don't remember his real name, but we called him Popeye. He was 5'4", 145 pounds, and he whipped my ass all over 7th and Kentucky for 7 minutes before I got back up. And I got. It's the only time I ever cussed on the police radio. And I was in the fight, and I hollered on the radio. I said, "Get me some
help."
Yeah, some help. That's what I said. And the funny thing was, as I saw, all the units were going north on Main, and I said, they hollered at me. I said, 403, you need backups. Nah, I got this. It's Popeye. He's 5'4", 145 pounds. If he, but once again, he was off his meds, and I couldn't hurt him. In that fight, I broke the orbit around his eye. I broke his right arm. I did something to his pelvis. He spent 3 days in intensive care. I did all that, and it still took 3 of us to get him in cuffs.
Wow.
And the funny thing, we had a major out with us, deputy chief. It was on 2nd shift, and it was cold. It was just starting to snow, and have you've fought so hard or exerted so much energy that you're tasting blood.
Oh, yeah.
You're just done.
Yeah.
You got nothing left. And that's where I was. And he was in the back of my cruiser, and I sat down in the cruiser, and I went, well, I started gagging. He had defecated on himself at some point during the fight. And I got out of the car, and I went up to the major, and I said, we're going to have to call a wrecker for my cruiser. He said, "What's the matter? Won't start?" Because we had junk back then when I worked at Corbin. This was an 85 slick top that would do 85 downhill with the tailwind. And it was junk. And I said, "No, it starts fine." I said, "Popeye shit his pants, crapped his pants. Sorry."
We're good. We got it. What do you call it? We got it worded explicit on our thing, so we're okay.
So, he had just shit his pants. And I said, I can't stand the smell. It's gagging me. I said, normally it wouldn't bother me a bit. He said, he took a long, deep breath inside, and he said, "I'll drive your cruiser back." So he drove the cruiser back to the PD. And man, I tell you what, it was terrible because we had holding cells there at the PD, and we put them in a holding cell.
They still have those.
Yeah,
I think they do.
I think they still do. Well, I was sitting in there. And back then, we killed the forest at Corbin when we made an arrest. You had to do all this other stuff, arrest data sheets, and this and that and the other, and citation, and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there doing my paperwork, fixing and we'd call an ambulance for him. I could still smell him, so I'm sitting there trying to type or write up my citation, going, and those guys are walking by me laughing their asses off, and
Oh yeah.
But I spent 2 weeks off work after that fight. I hit him so hard I jammed up my wrist, and I had to. And the funny thing was that was when I actually thought, this is fun. Even though all
It's
that,
different.
yeah,
It was, I was in the Marines and I got beat up a lot, choked out. I mean, all kinds of stuff. But it was, just more platoons challenging each other, and it was, they weren't going to let it get to. Some guys were beasts, and they would choke you out and beat you up pretty good, but they weren't going to let you get really hurt. But our business is a little different. I remember I took this guy up to the hospital. He was breaking in over here at the John Deere dealership, stealing stuff or whatever. We caught him, and he was a little intoxicated, and we were putting him in the car, and he cut his eye a little bit. Nothing, how thin that is. Like when he was getting in, he stumbled. Like it was legit. We didn't put him in, hurt him because we was already 10, 15 glad. It was like he was late too, and I take him to jail. And they're like, we can't take him. He's bleeding. I'm like, put a Band-Aid on that. And so we get to the hospital, and we're having to wait. You know how you have to wait in the ER, and this one is at the old one. And I'm looking, I'm like, I was like, I think you got marijuana on you, man. And I pulled a little bit out of his pocket. And I wasn't going to charge him with it because I've already got him with burglary and some other stuff. So I'm like, man, who cares? Even though, back in the day, if I found a seed, you would go on. But this is one I was like, I've got enough. I've already wrote the citation. Well, I think he thought it was okay because they'd taken his cuffs off to treat him, and I didn't have him to the bed or nothing like that. Well, he starts trying to wrestle around with me a little bit, and one of the nurses came over. It was a male nurse. Well, he grabbed him right by the throat. This guy did, my prisoner. Started choking this nurse. And I was like, what is she? So I grabbed him. I'm like, whoa, stop. So he decides to grab me by the throat. I was just like, finally. And I hit him. And I mean, he was going backwards. He was starting the already snore sound. It was really cool. But dumb me, he thought, well, that was awesome. Let me do it again. As he was falling, I threw this little ugly hook around and broke my hand.
Yeah.
I was out for 6 weeks on that. And the doctor was watching it all, Dr. Wilson. And he said, that first punch was a hell of a shot. And he said, you're going to need a x-ray on that second one. I'm like, what? And I looked down, and that bone sticking up. I start getting queasy and about to pass out. I was like, he said, you're all right. So they went back there and x-rayed and all that. He said, yeah, you got a broken hand. But I missed 6 weeks on that. And, I got kidded about that for, you got other things. You can palm heel or elbow strike, all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but I knocked that dude. He's out.
Slats out. Yeah, that's you talking about a bad guy choking a nurse. You ever heard of a nurse choking a bad guy?
No.
I fought this guy. He was on PCP, and
that's a rarity. I think one time
this was old school. And you know what's funny? This guy, you'll know him too. And I'm not going to use his name.
Oh yeah.
I was training him, and we got in a fight. Yeah. And I knew that he was a short timer in Corbin PD, and of course he was great officer. Even he was really good. He would have made a great road unit. Yeah. At any agency. And, I understand why he ended up where he ended up. But I get it. But he. Once again, he was doing paperwork or something. I was training him, and we'd already been there earlier in the evening. It was no big deal. I was going back the second time. I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. So I get there, and this guy tells me, I'm going to go in the kitchen and get a knife and cut your heart out and eat it. And I'm like, yeah, you are. Come on. And, of course, we fight, and the ambulance crew was already there because he was acting so crazy. They called an ambulance first. And 2 other Corbin units get there who were worthless as tits on a boar hog. I ain't even lying. I'm fighting this guy, and they're standing there going, ooh, ooh. not helping, not jumping in.
Oh yeah.
You know, and
Come on, guys.
I ended up getting that one of them back later on in life. But they're not helping me. And finally, I get him in a chokehold, and it was all good when he was in chokehold. But the minute I let up, man, the fight was back on. So one of the ambulance guys, I keep him in a chokehold. One of the ambulance guys ends up cuffing him. Not the police. He takes my cuffs and cuffs him. So we get him to the hospital.
That's embarrassing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's terrible. We get him to the hospital, and they put him in 4-point restraints. And this nurse happened to be married to a trooper. Good trooper. And she was a great nurse. And he was in there, and he was screaming and yelling, and they were going to use activated charcoal, which is fun. If you've never seen that,
No, I've seen.
yeah, it's so much fun to watch. And this guy hit the ceiling when he got rid of the charcoal, but he was screaming and cussing going on, and he was trying to kick, and he pinched her on her leg or something, made her mad, but he called her a bitch, and evidently that was her trigger word. And she grabbed him by the throat. I mean, cut his ear off. And she said, "I've had about enough of your shit." She said, "You calm down." And she said, "Or I will fix you." And he said, she let off. And he said, "Fix me." And she said, "Send me a garden hose catheter." I had never heard a man scream like that in my entire life. And while we were waiting on her to bring this, I don't know what kind of catheter. It was big. Just catheter scares me.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You know.
I think I've got a do not cath card.
Yeah, yeah, you know. She says, "You need a pure sample, right?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am."
Yeah, whatever you say.
Yeah, whatever you say. Yes, ma'am. You're in charge. And I've never, ever, ever heard a man scream like that. Because, you know, they normally lube it up and use that numbing cream and all that stuff. She said, you tough. You can handle it. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
oh, my gosh. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. You know, and
Deserved.
oh, yeah.
Well deserved. He earned that.
Oh, yeah. But I'm telling you, you know.
It's never fun when you got. I had one up there. I fought all the way in the ER, and it was my DUIs, high on meth. Bring him in the ER. We fight all the way to the hallway. I'm dragging him. We're fighting. I'm calling for backup. Anyway, I get up there, and the guy kicks a tray of whatever needles, and to this day, one of the nurses is like, "Oh, you saved my life that day." I'm like, "What?" Well, they came in there to cath him too, and they pull his pants down. They started laughing at him. I was like, "Oh my god, I don't know what's worse." I was like, "Bless your heart, buddy."
He's probably trying to hide from that shit stuff, you know. And your catheter's coming.
Yeah.
Sit back.
Trying to climb up back home.
We used to have an unwritten rule on night shift anyways. If one of us got shot or something, don't let them cut our pants off. That's it's the last thing. We're already shot. We don't need a bunch of EMTs laughing at us.
Yeah.
What happened? I got blood loss.
Yeah.
I just got out of the pool.
It's funny.
Yeah. Shrinkage. Shrinkage. It's been in the cold. The pool's cold.
Gosh. You've done some cool stuff, too. I mean, how many ball games do you think you've called in your life? I mean, you called a little bit here this year with my brothers, some, and with the Cardinals.
Yeah. You know, I started in 1987. I was on radio station down home, and we did Williamsburg football and basketball, and then we did that in 87, 88, 89. We switched over to Whitley County. We did all their football games and probably half their basketball games. We didn't travel a lot, and then after that we would do we would only do boys and girls double headers, girls games, but we would do a lot of boys games. So I would probably do 20 basketball games a year. And then later on, we started doing all football. And then we would do probably 25 boys basketball games and maybe 15 girls basketball games. Yeah. We did that for a number of years.
Keep you hopping.
Yeah, you know, and I was moving all the time.
Oh, man.
Bless my wife's heart. She put up with that for so many years, and
Not to mention your policing. You're also gone to these games.
Yeah.
It's just, it takes.
and
But you got to do what you got to do, man. There ain't no money in policing.
well, there certainly wasn't back then. When I started at Corbin PD, I made $5.15 an hour to start it, but I wanted so badly to be a police officer.
Yeah.
And to make ends meet, you had to work a bushel basket full of overtime.
Yeah. And that's if they were giving it back then. We back when I first started in 02, 03, when we get any overtime, you got to take it off. Got to take it off. I'm like, okay. Sometimes they say, all right, this guy's getting off at this time, so we need you to take off your overtime in the middle of a shift. That's wrong.
Yeah.
I was like,
And of course, things are better now, but I guess, from where I sit, we've got it made pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But this week has been tough on first responders. Period. Whether you're firemen or EMS, dispatchers, police officers, everybody, it's been really, really tough because we've had this tragedy here in Laurel County, and I know those guys. Aside from being just physically tired, working extended hours, having to, just the mental toll that it takes is just horrendous on these guys, and people don't see that because police officers are tough. They've got to be, or they couldn't last.
What is today? Today's the 23rd, so last Friday,
We're
the
a week
16th,
out. Yeah,
we had the tornado, EF4 tornado that really just did a
From Somerset all the way to
Laurel
Laurel
County.
County.
Well, they're saying like Russell County all the way to London, Laurel County into the London city, and damaged 1,000 homes or something.
20 some fatalities.
It's 19 right now, I think they said. And I had an aunt that lost everything. I've got friends. We have so many coworkers that work for the school system that were affected, and it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. And going out just to my aunt's and moving stuff and seeing I went out that night to find her, and just when I was out there that night, it was the eeriest. And I've worked some crazy stuff. I've seen some, but that was the most helpless I've ever felt in law enforcement, because I was like, I don't know how to fix myself right now to go help somebody. And those folks that went out there and did that with friends and family and coworkers that were injured and killed, was beyond anything we could ever expect. That's just true heroes, and they've shined this week. And
I'm impressed with how this community has came together, put everything aside, and came together.
Yeah, because it's been kind of weirdly political
around here.
Anyway, and to see us get past some of that stuff and come back is like, this is who really this town, these. And it's not just Laurel. This kind of, you
people from all over.
Yeah,
I'm
all
amazed. And the charities that like, what's the ones that is it the food
Mercy Kitchen or Mercy.
The chefs.
Yeah, Mercy Chefs.
And then the Samaritan's Purse and some of these folks that I've got to sit and talk to. And
we came out early.
Amazing.
We didn't come out early, but we came out today and then had to go up to Carmichael Community Church and unload a couple of vehicles of donated items, and our whole department was there.
Yeah,
and and that came from Bell County Board of Education.
Yeah,
and give them a shout out. And there's in sports and whatever they're rivals.
Yeah,
but when it comes nut cutting time, you find out
you see who people are.
And for me, I live in Whitley County, I live in Corbin, and I told my wife that night, I said I've got to get ready to go up there. I said, and we were going out of town the next day, and she said she talked me out of it against and she said if you go, you won't come back. And Okay, so we went, and I was going to see Billy Idol in Nashville.
Oh,
And
man.
I'd wanted to see him forever, and I bought the tickets in January. I went, I had a good time, but my heart wasn't as much in it as it normally would, because I was worried about Laura.
Right.
Yeah.
And we came back Sunday, and when I was going north, leaving town, going to Nashville, I went up to 80 and across, or Parkway, over to Bowling Green. And when I saw the devastation,
Yeah, you drive right by it on I-75.
and I was killed. And said, "Are you crying?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not crying." But, because policemen don't do that. We're not supposed to.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
But yeah, that's Monday, we were out of school, it didn't work, and I got up. Me and Jeff Anderson, another one of our officers, we got together and we went over into the devastation zone, and we worked not because that's what we do. That's what we do as police officers and servant leaders. This week, we've done stuff, and next week our department's gonna relieve London
City
a little bit and help them out because they're killed. Somebody's stealing a police car.
Is it yours?
No, it's not mine.
Is it mine?
No, it's one of the Chargers.
Oh.
I don't know who it could be.
My favorite, there is a huge rivalry between especially South Laurel and Corbin, and you see these Corbin kids up there in some of these places, these football teams, and working real close and know each other, and because the district tournament games were Monday and Wednesday here, and you could just it was more than just a baseball and softball game.
You're right.
And
people don't get it till they've been through it, till they go through it. And we've all been through all kinds of natural disasters, floods, ice storms, snowstorms, this and that and the other. But nothing compares to what I've seen.
No.
But listen, hats off to all first responders, firemen, the unsung heroes, dispatchers.
Absolutely.
And I've worked with some wonderful dispatchers, of course, Les Leatherman, who was a dispatcher, and one of the best ever to sit behind the mic, and
we'll miss him.
Yeah, it just it's tragic, but we were working. I looked around and saw these people, and I'm thinking, how can we come back? How can anybody come back from this? How can we come back from this as an individual? These people who lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
House I was working at, the wind blew so hard it tore the carpet off the floor.
Yeah.
The house is gone, but it tore the carpet off the floor too. And how did he come back from that?
Yeah.
But how did he come back from his community that lost 19 people and some wonderful people?
Yeah.
But that's the great thing about where we live in Kentucky. We've got that mountain blood in us, and we don't know any other way than to stand up, dust yourself off, and put one foot in front of the other and keep going. And that's where we'll be. We'll come back from this.
Yeah. I looked at December of 21 is when Mayfield got wiped out in Western Kentucky. I was looking at what it looks like now before, and I know, they hit the heart of downtown there, and it takes time. It takes togetherness, and that's all, and just love and patience, and we just got to get through this shock of funerals, and they're already starting to happen, and I know it's been just tough.
Oh yeah,
we got a lot of grieving to go before the rebuild stuff even happens, as friends and family are devastated right now. So yeah, we'll end it right there. I know it's not on the most positive note, but
no, I think it is positive.
It is
we all agree that we're going to come back. We're going to come back stronger and better
Keep
than
on
ever.
keeping on.
Yeah.
Yeah, this time has been
it's been tough, but you see you see what we really, really are capable of as a community, just not London and Laurel County, but the extended community, our neighbors like in Corbin and Whitley and Rock. You see all your surrounding counties. Not to mention, they're coming from everywhere across the United States. I mean, it's been pretty neat. So, but we'll conclude it, and we'll just keep praying for our community and lift us up and make sure that we're okay, because it's going to be some tough times ahead.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, Dave. Appreciate you, brother.
We'll do it again.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch more good stories.
Oh yeah, we're going to have some more sitting here.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right. Catch you on the next one.